Welcome to episode 15 of the Marketing Operators Podcast. Today we are talking all things ad creative. We're sharing some ads from each of our businesses. We're going through the anatomy of these ads. We are talking about what we think makes them work, what makes them not work, some iterative ideas. We're also showing some motion previews of how we analyze these ads. This is a very fun one. It's cool to see some of the creative and the thought process that goes into it. As always, thank you to our sponsors, Motion, Richpanel, Prescient, and Haus. And also, as always, if you like the pod, make sure to subscribe and share with your friends.
So all of us use Motion every single day, every single week, and we love it. And I would get a lot of questions about how we use it to help simplify our creative strategy, organize all of the tests and learnings that we're doing, and ultimately help us make better ads. And so today I actually want to share, I think this is perfect timing. We just wrapped up a Memorial Day sale. So I actually want to share some of the reports that we're looking at to help, make better ads, understand our ads, figure out what we can do to iterate on these winners, and then actually prepare for Black Friday. So let's get into it. So there's a few different types of reports you can create. One that I really love is called the comparative analysis feature. You can essentially take any variables that you have, if you have it in your naming conventions, and you can break it down to see how things compared. And so the number one thing that we look at for any promo every week, but also on a monthly period that I have sent to me, is how did our videos versus statics perform? And so you can see here, we spent a lot more on video. We actually used to spend a lot more on statics during promos. For whatever reason, that flipped. Pretty similar ROAS, but obviously videos did a lot better. So that's one that we're going to look at just to get a quick pulse on how we're doing. Then we're going to look at by concept. So we launch all of our tests by concepts. And so, we may have a bunch of ads in each one. But the cool thing about this, we may have this concept, this PCC unboxing in 8 different campaigns, and it's very hard to go in Facebook and try to find all of them. Motion makes it super easy, aggregates everything right here, and we can see that was our top spender. One thing I love about it, you can also ingest and bring in your North Beam attribution. So we can see how much we spent on that concept, what were the ADA metrics, what was the Facebook ROAS and North Beam ROAS for pretty much everything. And we can see which of our concepts got the most spend, best ROAS, and see how we want to do. And so that's comparative analysis. The other thing we'll look at is just top ads. And so again, if you have one ad in multiple campaigns, this will aggregate it all into one concept based on just whatever ads have the same naming convention. Every week, I get a report sent to me. We do a comparative analysis that's saying, hey, of all the products, here's how much you spent on each one of all the products we have in our ad account and what's our ROAS. And then secondly, here's our top 7 ads. And I just want to see, did anything new make it into the mix? Is anything fatiguing? So these are reports we look at all the time for evergreen stuff, but also for promo periods. So that's Motion. I absolutely love it. And if you want to try it out too, like all of us here in the pod, go to motionapp.com. And if you tell them that you're coming from the Marketing Operators Podcast, you'll get 50% off your first month.
All right. Well, I'm always curious what the drink that Cody has is going to be. I have one page of notes for like the actual
episode. Does
this
this look like a beer?
Another page. It kind of does. Cody usually has his poppy, but we're doing this in the morning.
No, Olipop, no poppy. But it's just
Olipop.
Beverage that's so good. But I was doing an interview and I was like chugging it during an interview, and I looked and I'm like, does the person think I'm just ripping a beer during the interview?
It's like kind of blurred out right now too. It might look like you're trying to discreetly drink. Yeah, it's even more suspicious.
Nice.
It's like, wow, Cody's feeling loose on today's episode of the podcast. Wow, he's really letting it all go. I love it. What's going on with you guys? Anything new? I know on our end we're rolling out our out of home in the next hopefully 2 weeks. We got some banger creative back. I'm really excited about it. I'll definitely share it once it's wrapped on the trucks. But is there anything going on in the Ridge or the Jones Road world that you're especially excited about right now?
On the out of home, have you talked publicly about what that campaign is? Can you tell us anything?
Can we do an out of home app? That would be fun.
We should absolutely do an out of home app. I can preview it a little. So this is our first foray into out of home. We've never done anything, no billboards, nothing like that. So we're starting off with those wrap trucks in New York City. We have a pretty cool partnership with the Yankees. So we're doing some creative around that. We're doing some creative just specifically around the product and what differentiates it. And then we're doing some Gordon Ramsay social proof type angles. So we're going to start with 5 trucks in New York City. Got some QR codes to kind of see which creative is compelling people to visit the site and want to learn more. But yeah, that's the launching off point. And then we're starting to talk to other out of home vendors so we can hopefully be better or be ready for kind of a more scaled out of home launch in the fourth quarter through billboards and probably more truck creative and all that.
I'm super stoked to see that campaign. Kitchenware and the New York Yankees, not the most obvious partnership.
No, not the most obvious partnership, but like we're really excited about sports. You know, cooking and food are very sports adjacent. So this is kind of our first foray into that. And yeah, we have all sorts of components to this partnership, like events outside of it, obviously like the in-stadium ad unit stuff. But it'll be really interesting to see how we can like amplify it in ways that are, you know, not just through what we're doing inside a Yankee Stadium. But yeah, like sports and food are just super, super complementary to one another. So big picture, we think that, you know, as a whole, that's going to be a long-term strategy for us. I did want to ask you, Cody, like, because you've been launched through those truck ads for a bit now, right? I'm curious what you're reporting on. Like, is it mainly impressions, CPM? Are you tracking any sort of, what are you reporting on to sort of track the performance?
I can give you a quick answer, but can we do an ep on this? Because I want to like do it justice, and because we got a lot to get into. It's hard. They definitely have ways to measure and track out of home, and I'm no expert on it, but we're dipping our toes in. We're going to do a lot. So there are ways to kind of do like causal lift analysis, do kind of like these quasi holdouts where they'll take mobile device IDs and, you know, compare exposed versus not. So essentially a holdout group, and then they can pixel their site. So they can say, hey, of the 50,000 people that were in proximity to this out of home, you know, you got 25K site visits of a quasi holdout group that, the essentially the exposure to site, and then you can kind of create a holdout and see like what your incremental cost per session is, things like that, you know, what your CPMs are. So we did have it for trucks. I'm pretty skeptical of it because we just did like a halfway point, but if it was true, it would be our best CPA, our best incremental CPA. And I'm skeptical of that. But I think like we're not spending that much on it. I don't need to hold it to the same rigor as we are of our meta campaigns. So at least having some data point that it does something and measuring something, which to me is like, is it getting new traffic to our site? I don't think it has to get, new purchasers right away or things like that. At least there's something. So we're planning to do a lot. Like we're opening up a few Brooklyn stores. And so we're thinking about doing like a Brooklyn or like a ferry takeover out of home, and you can kind of make it experiential. So there's a lot we're planning, but I think I really want to do it, but I really want to find some way to measure it. So I think that would be fun to chat about.
Yeah, we'll have to have a full episode about that. Connor, anything on your end? I know you were out in the desert shooting some content for a big sweeps y'all are running in a few months.
Yeah, we've got that's what we're really gearing up for right now. We've got a bunch of product launches over the next 5 weeks, but August 1st is a kickoff of our 4th sweepstakes. And we typically don't talk about what we're giving away, but it was a public, we're giving away a Tesla Cybertruck, and then we had the opportunity to work with the channel, Jerry Rig Everything, and he gold plated it, 24 karat gold. That's so awesome. It's sick, dude. It looks incredible. The content looks awesome. So if anybody sees it driving around Salt Lake City, Utah, it's probably me.
That's awesome.
But that's what we're focused on.
Do you get to drive it until the person who wins?
We've got a bunch of plans with it. We're going to get it in a ton of creator videos. It'll be here in Salt Lake for a bit. We took it out in like the Moab area yesterday. It'll be out in LA for a couple weeks towards the end, and we'll actually give it away from LA in like October or so. And I don't like driving it around. It's not quite my style, the 24 karat gold plated Cybertruck.
Little flashy.
What do you think of the truck in general?
I don't like it. Yeah, no, I'm not a fan. It's grown on me. I'll say that. When I first got in, I'm like, this thing is horrible. Like it creaks in a weird way. It's a really touchy steering wheel. You've got no dials in the dashboard. You've just got the iPad. So like you need to use the menu to like do the windshield wipers.
Model Y.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. So, but like I said, it's grown on me. It's a cool car. Someone's gonna love it. So yeah, that's what we've got cooking.
Nice. Sweet. Well, cool. Let's get into it. So basically today's episode, we are going back to creative. So the way we have today's episode set up, everyone from the pod, myself, Cody, Connor, we all grabbed a bunch of ads from from our businesses, and we have some links to those ads. We have some links to some motion reports, and we really just want to talk through some of these creatives and kind of how we analyze them. So let's get into it. Should we just start off with? Do you guys have one you want to start with? Do you want me to start? We could go either way.
I think you kick us off.
Yeah, let's do it. Sweet. All right. So I just honestly yesterday when I was doing this, I'm like, we launch a lot of creative on any given day. So I was just grabbing ads at random, pulling motion reports at random. So we'll share screen. We'll check it out. So we're starting off. We got one of the initiatives we have going at HexClad right now is that we're ramping up our non-cookware. We've built a lot of funnels around cookware. We haven't leaned on acquisition as hard historically to acquire people with knives, hex mills, all these other non-cookware products, and that's an initiative we have going this year. So this is what we're looking at.
These are the knives I use at home. Let's put it to work, shall we? Thin slice, turn it around, and you see those beautiful dices. HexClad Knives gives everything a chef needs: balance, sharpness, and world-class materials.
All right, so breaking down this ad, we start off with that like split screen product shot on the top, lifestyle. We got Gordon on the bottom with the big bold Gordon Ramsay quote right in the middle. Then we go into use cases, actually showing the product being used, close-up shot of the product, showing that cutting ability. Then we go into value props from Gordon, self-at camera, and then CTA. Pretty simple ad, pretty straightforward. Catchy hook, show the use cases, list value props, CTA. So yeah, pretty standard here, right? Like it's a very classic ad format, like hook, product in use / use cases, value prop, CTA, social proof, product, outcome, lifestyle, incorporated throughout all those different, 3 to 4 sections. Any other thoughts on the ad anatomy before we go into the motion report?
Have you tested, I just have a few questions because there's a few parallels between like Gordon and Bobby. Have you tested like the split screen hook versus just him?
I'm sure we have. Honestly, I need to go in and do a deep dive of all of our knives content. We have we just launched knives, so we've spent very, very little compared to all of our cookware stuff that we run. So we basically had this huge we call it 8 batches of creative that we launched with a variety of Gordon, product oriented without Gordon. So yeah, I could absolutely go in and take a look and kind of let you know what I'm seeing working best there.
Yeah, for us, all of our Bobby stuff is split screen. We usually go horizontal vertical split screen, but we found no matter how recognizable he or she is, like the split screen where you got like a ASMR product on one side and then her on the next side does well. And then have you tested like whitelisting versus partnership? Because I'm getting a lot of partnership from you guys with Gordon right now. And we're running mostly partnership. We used to run a lot of whitelisting with Bobby, but partnership is what's working best right now.
So we do mainly whitelisting from Gordon. Are you saying like partnership is in like HexClad with Gordon Ramsay versus like just coming from Gordon Ramsay?
Yeah, which is what I'm seeing from you guys more. And then also, I know it's what Meta is pushing.
Yeah, so that's what we're starting to do that more with our like whitelister brand ambassadors as a whole with Gordon. And in this, I don't think we've done that yet with ads. I think it's just been purely from his page. But that's an interesting thought to take, whatever's working here and see if it works better with like the HexClad brand on it as well. Mm-hmm. So what are you doing? Are you doing, you say you call it partner, we call it like allow listing. You say like the partnership whitelisting basically. Is that what you do mainly?
Yeah, where it's like Gordon Ramsay with HexClad. Yeah, we haven't tested perfectly, but that's what we run for more than anything. So now with Bobby, and then also just with all of our creators, that's what we do. And I know it's like what Meta is pushing as well. So I think we still do some whitelisting, but for the most part, we've seen that be the most successful.
Yeah, we're all of our like new creators that we're onboarding for whitelisting this quarter. It's all going to be through that allow listing with like the HexClad brand in it as well. So I'll let you know how that goes.
Yeah. No, but overall it's good. It's quick. I was expecting it to be a little bit longer. I don't know why. I just thought like a Gordon Studio one, but it's quick. But I guess you don't need that much education with knives. It's probably more of a product demo.
Right, and that's actually those are my notes on it as well. Like it is way too quick. It doesn't show use cases enough, in my opinion, which is what we'll see later on in some of these other ads that were downstream of this one, is that those have a lot more use cases in them. And I think that's super important, especially if you're buying a 7-piece knife set and each knife is different. Like you got to show people what each knife is used for. Cause I think a lot of people, like I don't know me, before I got my Hexclad, like I'm using the same 2 knives for everything. So I think showing use cases and outcomes of how to use these different knives products is really important. All right, taking a look at the motion report,
what it
our
is.
beloved
Can
motion.
I say one more thing on it?
Yeah.
Like I think when launching a new funnel, like it takes so much time to figure out what the messaging and value props that are going to hit for that funnel. And like you guys have nailed it so much for your cookware and your 12-piece set, and same thing for our hero products. But like you don't necessarily know what's going to resonate on a new product and funnel. And it might just be a demo. There might be like a unique feature in that you're not even realizing is like what people are interested in. So I feel like it's probably worthwhile to like start a little bit more general and vague, and then I would imagine you guys will really test all of the different angles you can go with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really like as we're launching these new product funnels, it's really like cast a wide net, right? Like we have these big, very different feeling swings. And then as we find winners, we'll hone it in more and more and more and more. And like, to your point, find that sequence and find those like components of these ads that work best. And it's so easy to pull these reports. For us in this one, we haven't really established, like, call it account-wide baselines yet for knives. So we're really just trying to find like what is the best ad creative possible for this knives category. So that's really what we're comparing all these tests to right now. Eventually, when we have stronger baselines where we say, hey, we know roughly in Facebook that this 1-day click ROAS outputs this blended CAC on knives, we'll compare to that account benchmark as well. But this is really how we do most of our ad analysis. So we're looking at the actual ad we ran here. We are comparing that to all of our knives videos and just trying to see, like, is this an incrementally better concept than all the knives videos that we're running in the account right now? As you can see here, no, it's not. This is 1-day click reported ROAS, by the way, from Northbeam, which pulls right into motion. So as you can see, knives as a whole are outperforming here. However, there's definitely some good things, right? Like the thumb stop is 6 percentage points higher than our overall knives thumb stop. Click-through rate's really good. So something about the way that we're introing Gordon in the product is getting people to stop. It's, Gordon, I think, is really getting people to click through and selling people on getting to the site. Some more iterations to be had, I guess, to kind of find a version that gets, at or above this. But that's also why we do variants, right? Like that's not the only ad we ran through this angle. We have 4 variants of it. And I think I wanted to pull this in because I think this is a good explanation of, what's the process like, right? When you make a new ad concept, chances are you're not only making one concept. We always try to make a handful of variants to give Facebook the best opportunity possible to find a winner. So what we're finding here is that even though this specific version was at a 0.15 1-day click ROAS, and that was, well below our average knives videos, we did find a variant that is showing promise, right? We have this V1 that is as good as all of our knives in the account right now, with some also obvious places to improve it. Like the thumb stop ratio is much lower on this one. The outbound click-through rate's also much lower than our account averages, our account benchmarks. But for whatever reason, that 1-day click ROAS is much better. I don't know why that is, right? Like there's no reason the outbound click-through rate should be so much lower because the body of the ad's the same. These are just hook variants that are different, and I can pull it up to show the one that's working here. But yeah, it's just this is how we look at things, right? So the concept as a whole was underperforming, but there was promise in this variant. So like this is the variant that we'll try to scale and get the most juice out of.
So one of the buzzwords this year is incrementality. Last year was all about attribution. This year is all about incrementality. And I think that's a great thing because we are all trying to grow our businesses profitably. And we want to make sure that the spend that we are putting out into market is actually is working for us. So I know that we are all Haus customers, and you guys have sought out Haus this year. What led you guys to do that? We'll start with Ridge.
For us, it's all about new channels. We're in the business of reaching net new male audiences. So when we're launching across Pinterest, Twitter, Snapchat, Live Intent, etc., we use Haus to measure the total impact of those new channel experiments.
That's awesome. How about Hexclad? What are you guys looking at?
Definitely the new channels as we roll those out, but because we already had such a diversified marketing mix in terms of channels and we were already spending at pretty high levels prior to onboarding Haus, the first batch of testing is just for us to find those optimal spend levels with our existing marketing stack, and then comparing those to one another to kind of see within our existing marketing stack, where should we bring spend down, where should we bring spend up, and really using that incremental ROAS, that incremental CAC number to inform how we move those budgets up and down.
I love that. Yeah. And for us, the same, we've definitely tested new channels, but we've also calibrated spend on existing channels. We've saved 6 figures a month just by not running brand search because we've ran multiple tests and it's not incremental. So I know for all of us, it's had a huge impact and we love it and we couldn't live without it at this point. And so if you want to be like us and want to add scientific rigor to your marketing stack, I recommend you go to haus.io/operators. That's haus.io/operators to get a demo today. And so what will you do from there? Will you try to iterate on that? Or you're fine with that because the ROAS is great. Let's just see how much we can scale that.
So we'll try to scale it and see how much legs we can get out of it. We'll also then compare it to like a different metric. Like once we start scaling an ad, we start comparing it to like scaled metrics. Like all right, how does this compare to creative testing as a whole? Or how does this compare to its asset type, account-wide aggregate as a whole? And then we start scaling it. At that point, we start to compare it to our scale campaign ads only. So it kind of gets like a different comparison point as it graduates from creative testing into scaling. But yeah, we'll try to scale this one directly. Like I said, we've very much spent the last 3 months producing a lot of assets, casting a very wide net to see which ones perform best. So we're not necessarily in this like super minute iterative stage with our knives ads, but at some point when we come back, we're like, hey, we're ready to go iterate into more variants. Like this, that's exactly the analysis. We'll come in, pull the top performers, kind of try to find trends, and then test into different variants of them.
Okay, so I have a couple quick questions. So what is the hook for V1?
So the hook on that one is like a comment response. Here, I can pull it up on my screen here. So the hook on this winning variant is this comment response. How can I cut my onions without crying? Big like close up onion shot. No Gordon social proof in the hook baked into this one, which is interesting. But that also, like if you come in and you look at this variance report, that makes sense, right? Like the thumb stop on this one is much, much lower than the thumb stop on the one that had Gordon in it from the jump. So wasn't as effective in stopping the scroll, but for whatever reason, this is the one that drove the best performance.
I really like how different those are, though. Ours are too similar. Like our hook tests, I really like how different they are.
Yeah, so I'll say a couple things. One, the one that is performing better from a ROAS standpoint is converting at like a insanely higher rate. It has a third of the click-through rate. So all of the value is really just being captured at the conversion rate level, which I think is interesting. Like it implies that like maybe someone's more qualified with the different hook. It's not that much data, but like I like to dive in there. That's what makes the biggest difference. If it has a third of a click-through rate and 2x the ROAS, it just means people are converting at an insane rate. And then 2, we try to change up hooks frequently because like we get a 30% thumb stop on the Gordon ad that we just watched. So 30% of people have seen the Gordon ad. That's the initial point. But 70% of people haven't even watched 3 seconds of that ad. So all of a sudden you can change the hook and it feels completely different. And it's just like a new beachhead into the content. So I think that's really cool. I think that's like, I mean, obviously people talk about testing hooks all the time, but like it's like the highest leverage thing that you can do. Most people, the vast majority of people are stopping to watch your ad before the 3-second mark. So just changing the first couple 3 seconds, if you feel like you have strong content, can make the biggest difference.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to think about what's technically happening here, right? Because we have, like you said, the thumb stop on that onion hook is half of what it is on the Gordon one, but the conversion rate's clearly much, much higher. As the click-through rate's also 1/3. So what's functionally happening in Facebook, for whatever reason, that onion hook, my interpretation is it's showing to a totally different audience, a totally different group of people that clearly have much higher intent and thus a much higher conversion rate than the people that are getting served that Gordon hook ad, which is really interesting. It's like it's hard to also understand, well, why is that the case? It's the same video ad except for that first 3 seconds. But to your point, Connor, that's why you test hooks, because those different hooks, those different components, although they just seem like a tiny small variable, these are clearly serving to different audiences, and that's what's driving this difference in performance.
So I agree, and I think we should move on to the next slide. But I just want to say one thing, because I know you said they're like a tiny small variable. I actually think you guys did a really good job making them a big enough variable to actually make a difference. It wasn't like you just changed like the font or like even like the title. Like it does feel like a unique ad from the hook, which is I think really important.
Yeah, definitely. So this one, we don't have data on it yet, but this is a good example of us like ingesting some of the existing data we do have, kind of evaluating our stack after we launched this product, and kind of saying to ourselves, what are we missing here? In my opinion, again, it came back to the use cases. If you go look at a lot of our competitors, they have these montages where they're showing tons of use cases on how these knives are used, the different foods that you can use on them. So this was kind of not an iteration, but like a round two addressing that point. We also have this general initiative to get more hi-fi stuff in our ad account. So you'll also notice this is much more high production value. But I'll play this one as well because I think it's a good one, and I'm excited to get it live. So that's what we always call those, like the hype reels, just like high production value, product oriented. We have another version that calls out the individual products as well that are in the 7-piece set to see how valuable it is for people to know that in the ad going to the site versus just seeing the CTA and learning that on the product page. But this is how we've continued to kind of create diversification with our ad assets for this funnel.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for ads like this. Like we see a bunch of different stuff work, but like how value prop oriented this one, there was like a really great product education done. That's what I was surprised we didn't see more of that in the first ad that we watched. I have the knives. They're like super rad. You get the Damascus steel. The handles are awesome. You guys sell the like magnetic holder as well. Like it's just such a great experience that there's like a really rich story to tell from a product standpoint. I think that ad did it really nicely.
Agreed. And like you think about process here. It's like, all right, we're going to launch this. We're going to do that same exact analysis that we just did with that motion reporting. Like, how does this video compare to all of our knives videos? And then based on that one-day click, based on those soft like thumb stop click-through rate metrics, that's where we might come in and say, okay, that Gordon video had, a 7 percentage point higher thumb stop. The one-day click on this hype reel video was much better than that Gordon video. Like, should we try Frankensteining them together to create this ultimate ad performer that has the Gordon hook, and then it has more use cases, more value prop education, more product information education, and you kind of end up franking your Steining way into these ultimate performing ads.
This is what everybody does, but in theory, if you get the thumb stop rate of the Gordon hook, you get the credibility of like the most popular chef endorsing your knives. You do all the product education, so the product's actually backing it up. It's like, why wouldn't you buy those knives? But it doesn't always work that way. So keep us posted.
Yeah, I will. So if you're a CMO, a head of growth, a paid media lead in today's e-commerce ecosystem, you know how hard media mix can be. You know how hard it can be to sift through all the data and make the decision of what percentage of spend you want to put into each channel. So, last click based attribution is great, but they often undervalue view channels. Incrementality holdout testing is great, but that often takes, weeks and months to get that data back. And you might take 4, 5, 6 months to have comparable data across all your channels. Enter Prescient AI. Prescient AI is AI-powered marketing mix model. So basically what Prescient does, it measures and forecasts the true daily value of your paid media campaigns with incredible accuracy. And it really gives you the confidence to scale and put your budget where you think it's best put and what's optimizing that ad spend. So Basically, with Prescient, you're gaining AI-powered insight into the impact of your paid media, including hard-to-measure campaigns on TikTok, YouTube, influencer, and connected TV campaigns on your e-commerce revenue, including Amazon. I cannot emphasize how important this is. It's one of my favorite parts of the tool. Prescient's super easy to install. There are no pixels, so you have just super quick access to past, present, and future data in hours, not weeks, not months, in hours. You start getting models outputted, and these are all unique to your brand. They're trained and they're back tested on your data. And what Prescient does that I have not seen other MMM tools do is that they actually give you optimizations down to the campaign. It's not just how much you should put in Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, but they're actually giving you, saying, hey, this campaign in Facebook is better than this one. You should put more budget here, which is really cool. We use it at Hexclad. It's used by other top brands like Good American, Cozy Earth, Timbuktu, Nude, and dozens more. It's one of the fastest growing e-com, tech, MMM tools in the game right now. So if you want to check them out, book a demo today at prescient-ai.io/operators. That is PRESCIENT-AI.io/operators. Prescient AI, helping brands scale spend confidently with AI-powered marketing mix models.
I've got one that I'm super excited about. It's only a couple days in. I'll give a little bit of backstory. Everybody is familiar with the infamous Adams ad, which is a shoe brand, and they had this ad many years ago that was "They're not cheap," and it was like a big headline. "They're not cheap. It's true. These are expensive shoes." At the time, they were like $130 shoes. This ad's probably 5 or 6 years old or something. Feels like a pretty accessible price point in today's inflated environment. Regardless, it was this very rich premise. People really like the copy. People talk about copying it all the time. I've been joking for months that like when our ad account is struggling, it's always like, oh man, we got to pull out the "they're not cheap" ad again. So we've got a version of that, but it's not about like value or cost at all. So I'm sharing it here. And for those listening, the "they're not cheap" ad is you have a shoe at the bottom. It's like a color blocked purple background. And then there's just a bunch of copy. So I'll read off the copy here quickly. And you'll get how it applies to us. For us, we're talking about wedding bands. We've got a 24 karat gold ring in the corner here. We've got a headline: "Wedding bands are weird. They don't make sense. They represent a lifelong commitment, but the average guy changes ring sizes 2 to 3 times, and that doesn't count when rings get lost. The bands from the jewelry store won't last. We have a very simple solution. Buy a ring from us. It looks great, fits comfortably, and one day when you need a new ring, just let us know. We'll send you a new one. For free, you ask? Yes, that's our lifelong commitment." So it's like, it is literally like, I mean, I pulled up the Adams ad originally. I briefed this one out a couple weeks ago. I pulled up the Adams ad, like very similar rhythm to the copy, completely different concepts. So really what we took inspiration from here is just the format of being copy dependent, as well as having a maybe like untraditional value prop, right? Like you don't see a lot of ads that start with "wedding bands are weird," in the same way that you didn't see a lot of ads before we all started copying Adams that started with "they're not cheap." So this is where we kicked it off. I also liked it because for us, we do this never lost and forever fit protection, which is in the bottom left here. We've got a little logo lockup, which I think is a very unique value for wedding bands. Everything I said about the ad is true. Guys change their rings all the time. You can't resize tungsten rings. So you've got this item that's supposed to represent a lifelong commitment, but it's not really built to survive a long time. Or it kind of has a very high likelihood of becoming irrelevant, or that it wouldn't work anymore. So we've got this program where we'll replace your ring 2 times whenever you need a new size or if you lose it. I think it's super unique, and I think it's a relatively nuanced message to get across. In a video ad, we might hit like 2x free replacements, or on a landing page, like a little call out of 2x free replacements, but you don't really get the story of why replacements are important for a tungsten band. And I thought that the Adams "they're not cheap" format kind of gave us a real estate to explain that. So anyway, I thought it was an interesting take, and we're seeing it crush. So Rose on this, it's at a decent spend level at this point, and it's 50% better than any other image ads we've run year to date. Awesome. We historically see
just for
much
rings,
stronger, just for rings. 50% better than any other ring image ad. We typically see stronger performance from video ads for rings, so I'll give that caveat as well. But clearly, like, the message is resonating here to some degree. The two other things, I don't have a motion dashboard to pull up, but we saw a 2x higher click-through rate. So 50% higher ROAS, 2x higher click-through rate. So clearly getting people interested. And then going through all the comments, we just see like a ton of women tagging men and being like, this is cool, this is interesting, etc. So just a little bit more discussion worthy than hitting the more traditional point. So we've been stoked on this one. That's a little bit of the context as to how we got here.
I love it. Can I give my thoughts on it?
Yes.
So first of all, your standard image ads, like I use them as inspo for my team all the time. I think you guys just do a great job of statics. I think what you guys do really well, your copy is really good. Do you guys have an in-house copywriter, or who writes copy?
We have an in-house copywriter, but overall the copy for our static ads is just a labor of love, very much a collective effort.
It's clear. Your headlines are very clear, so they get attention, and you do a really good job, like blending the copy and the image together to tell like a cohesive message. So I think you guys do a great job with that. I know this is a little bit more non-traditional, but I just wanted to say that. So two things I like about this ad. Number one, there's probably like a Robert Cialdini like influence principle in here, but it's like when somebody just tells you how good they are, you get skeptical. If it's the whole Adams ad where it's like, hey, this is expensive. It's like it's like an accusations audit. What's his name? The never split the difference guy. Like we call that. It's like when you lead with something negative about yourself, you're a little bit more likely to be trusted. It's like a downselling principle, and so I think that's why like the Adams ad works well. It's kind of that whole like liquid death, like negative review strategy. And so I think it's just different versus if you just see an ad that's like, wedding bands are great. It's like, hey, I know this is an ad. I know they're about to sell me something. Like, I'm going to get skeptical. So I think that does really well. I think the copy on this is great, like the angle you mentioned. Then I also just think the hook, like wedding bands are weird. That is going to, just wedding bands in the headline is probably going to be something that gets attention from people that are in the market for wedding bands. So I just think it's like a very clear hook as well. So that's why I think this ad did so well.
Also, the perfect balance between the narrative that the copy presents and having it still be product oriented. Like you look at this ad and pretty quickly you know what the product is and what it's for. And I think that can be challenging, especially an ad like this. We were really leaning on the copy to do the heavy lifting. Like you've visually set it up in a way that it's still very clearly a ring ad, which is really cool.
The lifelong commitment. You're talking to people when they're in the biggest, period of their lives of making a lifelong commitment. And that's, what they're valuing. And then you're almost aligning your brand's values to them. And you're saying that's our lifelong commitment to you. And so I think that almost helps them feel more secure in their commitment.
Yeah. I like the premise of this one. I like that we start with they represent a lifelong commitment and then we tie it in it. That's our lifelong commitment at the end.
It's really good.
Decent copywriter.
This is a good copy, man.
So yeah,
did you write this copy, Connor?
So I wrote this copy. Yeah, I don't feel like I should take too much credit. I feel like I just applied like the initial idea to what is ultimately probably the 0 to 1 good copywriting was the Adams ad. Took a lot of heavy inspiration from that, which I am a huge proponent of. I'm a massive fan of like trying to figure out what works of certain things or like why they worked. And in the case of the Adams ad, it was this more intricate message that you need to tell via copy and like supporting that from like a ad format perspective and us just borrowing that. So that's been the idea. Next steps for us. The other interesting one is like, this is a singular focus for the Never Lost and Forever Fit. Kind of going back to my point around the knife head, like we definitely are biased towards like cramming together information. We're like, look, we have awesome wedding bands. They come with a silicone ring. They come with a travel case. You get 2x free replacements. Like we'll fall into that rhythm of like trying to hit all the points all the time when our best performing ad right now is a single point. You don't know we give the silicone ring. You don't know we have the travel case. You don't know really anything else about the rings other than we've made this lifelong commitment to give you replacements when you need. And I think that's another like lesson we're taking from this is how do we better zero in on that message in particular? And then how can we get that message to like manifest in other ways? I'm like, the next step from here was actually we should have landing pages that better reinforce this message. And then 2, how do we get this message across like this more narrow message across in video ads? Because I don't think we've done that as well. So how do we just like pull it through to more channels and placements?
I love not trying to do too much in one ad. And I think sometimes we try to with like so many value props, but it's like sometimes you don't have to put them all in one ad, and you can just lean into one angle with this ad and then let another ad speak to the other value props.
Right. So
and the conversion rate almost takes care of itself, because you've now arbitrage click-through rate, so you're getting people to the site more efficiently, and then you have all these added value props that you're gonna hit with them on the website, right? The silicone part, all those the case. So chances are, if you can just get them there just with this message on a better rate, well, now you have all those things coming in, and that's just only going to enhance conversion rate. So you're almost leaving a little bit almost like a little surprise and delight from the ad to the landing page. It's no surprise that it's converting really well.
Yeah, 100%. So cool. I was a fan of this one.
Have you seen I've seen some brands try to do the Adams, they're not cheap ad, and just totally backfire. Like people in the comments just ripping them a new one where it's like, no, these are cheap. They are unjustly expensive. And just like hundreds and hundreds of comments. Have you seen that? People trying to mimic it and just totally backfiring it?
Dude, totally. And that's the problem with that, is like someone's trying to copy the entirety of the ad, like the premise, the format, like, hey, we're going to do like the exact same thing, and we're going to talk about our, whatever it is, blankets or something. And that's not, you're not actually identifying like, what is it about your brand that you can utilize in a format like this? What is the non-traditional, more nuanced message you want to get across? So that's, I don't know. Yeah, that always bothers me. I did see, I tweeted this a couple of weeks ago, but it was a shoe brand. I forget their name off the top of my head here, but I thought they'd done a good job of, they took the "they're not cheap" concept and then they used it in like a review. And it was something like that. Like they had, it might've been a 1-star review. "They're not cheap." And they were like, yeah, it's true. These are great shoes, etc. And it was just like a little bit more natural, a little bit more unique of a way to kind of like hit this message of premiumness. So it's funny. There should be college courses taught about the Adams ad.
I mean, you're a great example though, where you ripped this concept from someone, but there's still a ton of creativity involved in making it original to your brand. And I think that's like such an important lesson. Like take inspo from these other brands, but it's not like robot, no thought going into, well, how do we make this unique to Ridge, and how do we tweak the messaging and the creative and all that. And I think that's you say in the show notes, like I took it, you took the very, like you took 15% of it and then you made it 85% original, which is just the call out here, in my opinion.
Right. So what do the most successful brands have in common? They have great profit margins. They're lean businesses. They're actually making money. This is something the D2C industry didn't do for a really long time. And number two, they have a brand that consumers love. Now, what if I told you that you could achieve both using AI? The team at Richpanel has developed an AI that can significantly reduce your support staff while providing memorable customer service. So you can reduce costs while ensuring that consumers continue to love your brand. So here's how it works. The AI imports data from your existing help desk and uses this information to train itself. This entire process takes less than a day. Afterwards, it begins to automate numerous tasks, thereby reducing customer response times. We just switched to Richpanel at Ridge. We had been on customer. I didn't feel we had a modern stack for our customer experience team. What we're looking forward to doing is a number of things I just mentioned. We're going to reduce headcount. We're going to offer a better customer experience. We're going to make information more readily available to the consumers that are looking for it. And we think Richpanel is a great tool to do that. So the best aspect of the transition was its simplicity. We were ready to go live in 2 weeks with no data loss. Our team of 30 agents were quickly onboarded. And thanks to Richpanel's tutorial videos and user-friendly interface, it was all very seamless. If you're looking to leverage AI to save on support, payroll, and deliver a customer service experience that your customers will truly appreciate, check out richpanel.com and schedule a demo with their team.
All right, should we do some Jones Road? See what Cody's got cooking over there?
All right, so we're trying to go a little bit in the opposite direction. We are, a lot of our stuff is I don't know, what's the opposite of lo-fi? Hi-fi, produced studio stuff.
Yep.
So we're definitely trying to get more like real style, socially native stuff, in addition. And we, I think, have spent so much time just trying to iterate on the same thing over and over. And I think there's value to that. Don't get me wrong. Like how you guys were sharing, like let's put a new hook on it. But I also think you can just like iterate yourself into like a hamster wheel, and you're just like eventually do the same thing over and over. So I've really been challenging my team, like how do we do things that are just like drastically different? And so
Big
we had this
swings, right?
event. I think, yeah, big swings. And I think we had this same messaging, right? You can hit a lot of the same pillars, but just have it be done in a visually different way might reach a different audience. And so we had this event that I think you guys saw where we had the truck event and we had like lines around the block. And so our creative strategist, she did this one completely on her own, just started asking people questions in lines. Obviously we filled out forms and got them to sign stuff. And this launched this week, took up spend pretty immediately, well above our average 1 day click right now. And June's like not a good period for us. And so we're like above like our normal, like way above our normal. So like this is crushing it right now. So yeah, let me play it and then can kind of break it down, but want your guys' thoughts on it. But it's really just like an interview, asking people a few questions. We've seen a lot of success. We've got a few other examples of this like style where like the hook is a question from the person that's holding the phone.
I'm 66 years old. Wait, but you look like you're in your 40s. Excuse me, what do you use for your skin?
What the exfoliation? No, because it's very moisturizing. And it goes on, and I don't need concealer anymore. So I'm very minimalist. I put stuff on in the morning, I don't like to fuss. And there it is, and it lasts. And it really, this sort of does this whole thing where it makes your skin beautiful.
So it's, again, from this event, you just see one person standing there, looks, attractive woman, but looks like our customer, persona. And there's a little copy on the screen just of captions, but there is, the person holding the camera who's just asking them little questions. Hey, you look great. What do you do for your skin? And we've seen that just like compliments angle play really well. Like our best static headline ever is just like, I've never gotten so many compliments on my skin. And so I think everyone, just loves that from an emotional desire perspective. But it's super, organic, authentic. And here's the thing. It's an actual customer. It's not one of these fake UGC testimonials where somebody's like, oh my God, I'm obsessed. It's actually a customer saying why she loves it so much, who is, an aspirational, figure in terms of like what our customers want to look like. And she's just organically talking about why she loves it, how it helps her skin, talking about how she doesn't need, moisturizer anymore. So it's actually, or concealer. So it's actually simplifying, her routine, which is a value prop. So I think some of those aspects, and it just, it's one of those that doesn't look like an ad. It even was filmed horizontally. So it's actually I actually think it wasn't an iPhone. It might've been on a camera, but it's filmed horizontally. So it's got like the gray bars on top. So it's just like, it's got a 60% thumbs up rate right now.
Wow. Yeah. And you guys haven't done historically much like on the street content?
No, pretty much the first of that.
I feel like that makes so much sense for your brand, because you can walk up to some, like, immediately you're showing outcome. It's like you can't go and do that as seamlessly with a pan, but like this woman, I can see right away she has clear, beautiful. Like we want to do man on the street. We're thinking through how to do it. Like for you guys, like aspirational woman, bang, like the outcomes baked right into the initial hook. Have you tested? Do you have like insights into like product oriented hook versus aspirational person lifestyle oriented hook, like this one that has a 60%? Is that generally the case? Like showing a person in that first 3 seconds drives better thumb stop than product, or is it a mixed bag?
We do a lot of split screen, especially our studio stuff. So whether we're showing Bobby or a different person, we do a lot of before and afters. But generally having some type of a split screen, we found that does better than just a single person. If we are going to have a single person, it's got to be, one of these styles. And usually, I would say kind of more of what we would consider a top of funnel hook, which is a problem or a, solution desire, will perform better than just here's this product. Usually we see that be a little bit more of like a middle funnel thing, which there's a time and a place for. Like I think we like to try to think full funnel, but definitely the goal is to get these like top of funnel prospecting ads.
And it doesn't take too long for the product to come in, right? We're at basically the 5-second mark, and then you have that product page overlay. So it's not like you're not waiting too long to let people know what the product is and what this ad's all about. So it's like, I think it's a solid balance where sometimes you get like halfway through these ads and I'm like, I still don't know what the product is. And I think that's a problem, because if you're that far through the ad then I think you're losing the intent of people if they don't know what they're watching and they're watching simply because it's engaging content, which is also important to make it engaging. But like, you got to qualify people and you got to like let people know what the product is the way that
I think it's both
Connor's ad
ways.
did it too.
I think you want that. Just here's the product. Here's why it's so good. But you've got to, you got to realize that, only a certain percentage of the people in the market and the funnel are like ready to buy right now. And so the product will only resonate to the people that have the awareness levels of that product. Right. And I think it depends, what you're looking for. But I think sometimes you want to expand, your category and you want to reach people who are, in the problem phase and in discovery phase. Like for example, some of our top ads are like, and I can share one other, but it's just talking about like top 5 beauty tips for people over 50, because they maybe have never heard of Miracle Balm. They know they're over 50. They know they want beauty tips because they've got this certain problem. Or we're gonna do one that's like top 3 tips if you have dark circles, because people are very aware of the problem, but they don't necessarily know what they should do to fix it. And especially because we have products that are, more of a category creator that they've never really heard of. Like if we just had Miracle Balm or What the Foundation, like most of our customers have never heard of them because they're a category, but also like they've sworn off foundation. This would be like if somebody like swore off cast iron and you said, buy this hybrid cast iron, they're gonna be like, why do I need that? But if you can kind of hook them with like their stage of awareness, I will say it'll have a lower conversion rate. I think the reach is better. I think you just want to do some of both, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm starting a very quick segment of Ecom Bros Learn About Makeup 2. Why is Miracle Balm category creating?
So it's usually you have either skincare or makeup. It's definitely both. There's more products that have both, but like traditional makeup, like a blush or something like that is like a powder, and it's like separate of skincare. And so it's essentially a balm that has some color in it. So it can be like moisturizer. It can be used just like all over tint. It could be used as like a highlighter. So things like that. So it's like very versatile, but it's skincare makeup one. There's not like if let's say we're in Sephora, there's not necessarily like a category it goes in. I guess now it would be a balm, but it's not like it's not a blush, it's not a lipstick, but you can use it for all of those things.
Really? All right, cool. End of that
I'm
segment.
picturing like,
Yeah.
I'm picturing like a man on the street, woman on the street mashup here, where it's like 6 people in a row, quick cutting, like putting it on close up of their skin, telling how much they love it. I love the man on the street, woman on the street concept for your brand. That's going to be fun to see how you scale it.
Our director of growth, Howie, was like, have we done any mashups with this? And I think that would be great.
Yeah, sweet. Also love I'm a big fan of like, I think it's fun to show the B-roll of like the product being made. And I think you have some nice, beautiful shots, like B-roll cutting back and forth between the creator. Yeah, we do a lot of that. That's a format we do a lot where it's like self-recorded to creator. And then we're just, cutting to B-roll, back to creator, B-roll, back to creator. I like doing that a lot.
Mm-hmm. So for context on this one, like I'm always thinking about creative diversity, and I think funnel diversity is probably important as well. And again, I guess I'm always thinking about using the machine learning to try to appeal to people where they are in the funnel. And so kind of on that note, we've had success in the past with working with like publisher whitelisting. So we partnered with the publisher, with an actual publisher. But we wrote an article. I wrote it was Bobby Brown's top 5 tips for women over 50. We did it because we saw it work on an organic TikTok, right? It just like went viral, and then we turned that into an ad. So I like to think about like how can you get like a messaging pillar that works, but then how can you distribute that on other channels and make it relevant for those channels, right? We're not gonna do a static on TikTok, but that'll look different. We might do a different message on TV, but then also like on Meta in terms of creative diversity. Like how can we get that being for studio stuff? How can we get that for UGC with creators? And how can we get that statics? And so the publishing stuff worked pretty well. Problem with that is you usually pay a variable fee. It's usually like a 10-15% percent of spend, which really adds up. And so I was like, what if we just wrote this ourselves? Like Bobby's got enough credibility. So we built out a landing page, and let me pull it up and share it. We built out a landing page. I'm a big fan of landing pages that don't look like landing pages, meaning like it just looks like it's like a traditional page on your website that somebody's not gonna, it's like a completely new one. And then we just ran some statics to it. So let me just share my screen. So here is actually the funnel. So this was built in Riplo, and so you can see it it's kind of like an advertorial style funnel. It looks like a blog, Really tried to design it as much to our, similar to our blog as possible. But you can see it's a faux header, so it's sticky, but you don't have the whole nav. It's kind of a listicle, but it's a little bit longer form, so I'll call it like an advertorial. And it's just trying to be, a blog, but obviously the copy is very carefully written. And again, it's very brand heavy, very, their current level of awareness, which is what they know. They don't want traditional heavy powdered makeup products, but they don't necessarily know what they do need. Talking about, again, really the other products and problems in the market, talking about some just like lifestyle things. And then eventually the fifth point is actually getting to the makeup. And really after that, it's like, so it's kind of like a Trojan horse. And then we finally get into the Miracle Balm. We're testing 2 versions of this page. One that just looks like this and has one. The other that after you get down to this section, it actually turns into more of like a traditional landing page with reviews and images and a PDP buy box. And so right now we're just running, let me just share this tab, just very simple statics to us. They were very similar to the ones that we ran with the publisher. And again, I think that, these ads might resonate with somebody who is over 50 and wants to look prettier and wants to look better, but doesn't necessarily know what they need. And I think if we were just saying Miracle Balm, boom, this product is great, it wouldn't necessarily resonate with them.
Totally. It's really, there's a ton of copy. It's a super interesting landing page. And then just that small CTA at the very end.
Yeah, I guess. I come from a little bit more like a direct response world. Like if you think like super long, landing pages, stuff like that, like super long VSLs. And so I think there's definitely times where it's like, quick, short ads, like people don't read. I totally believe in all that. But I also think sometimes if, it's that whole thing of like people don't have short attention spans, they have long consideration spans. Is that it? Right. It's like if you can get somebody and hook them in, then as long as your content is interesting, like they will read, right? If they have a problem, right? If your back is killing you, and you see an hour-long video on how to fix back pain, like if your back is bad enough, you'll watch an hour-long video. If you have no back pain, you're not going to watch 2-minute video about how to fix back pain. You know what I mean?
Right. Do you have a different like performance goal that you're trying to hit with a page like that, considering it's like a completely different part of or it's a completely different funnel is how you teed it up?
No, we're running it in our prospecting stuff right now. I would say I would accept a little bit lower. I'll look at, what percent of new traffic. It definitely, what we find with this, very high click-through rate. So like a 3% click-through rate, the traffic is about half the cost. Conversion rate is way down. And again, I don't know if I would want all of my spend going to this because I don't know if I necessarily want that. Maybe that's not qualified traffic, but I do think hopefully we're getting some new people in. What I think we will do, I'm actually going to run a house test with this and actually run this with a consideration objective. I haven't exactly figured out what yet. Maybe it'll be some type of quiz completion, like a mid-funnel thing. Maybe it'll just be like a view content, and just over time see if like directing a portion of our spend and actually now matching the optimization with the level of content helps that at all, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I love that. We've talked about that a lot internally, like optimizing for something like view content. With that funnel, there's like quite a bit of friction between like landing on that page and ultimately viewing content. So you're optimizing for like a browsing user, which I think is super valuable. Sure. And then running it with Haus makes total sense. A PDP. Yeah. You optimize for view content with like a typical landing page, and it's like you're optimizing for clicks, which is just like garbage. But like if you're optimizing for view content, landing them on that long advertorial that you just showed, then they're getting pushed to a quiz, then they're viewing content. It's like that's a super engaged user. That's I think it's super interesting optimizing for that sort of behavior.
We might have it as a test of the week one day. You never know.
Dude, love it.
In terms of you're right now, you're thinking about maybe doing some holdout test to like see if this could work as a non-purchase conversion objective. But as of now, you're serving this to a top of funnel audience conversion campaign, and you're really comparing this to other top of funnel ads that would maybe be more direct response, right? Like a very like a product oriented image that like it's very clear what the product is. It's more like, hey, here's the product, here's what it does, go shop now. Right now, you're comparing these on a similar basis as long as they're both serving roughly similar net new traffic levels. Is that how you're looking at it?
Yeah, I think so. That makes sense. So similar, CPA targets, I'd probably take a little bit worse of a ROAS on this. I don't have a data point. It's more of like a gut feel. Definitely if I see it, and I got to check. I haven't checked, but if it's a higher percent of new traffic, like for sure, totally. I think some of it is just a little bit of like a feel, qualitative, like it feels like we're probably going to bring in a different user on the same thing for like a UGC. Like if we have like a great piece of creator content that we feel like gives us a lot of creative diversity that could theoretically reach a new audience, I'm okay to run that at a little bit lower. I think really the proper way to measure that would be to run some type of a creative diversity test with Haus and validate it, kind of run that strategy, in a region, run just, one type of creative, but like your top performers, and really see if you're, where you're stronger. But yeah, that's our approach. Is I will just make that gut feel and just say, hey, I'm willing to run new stuff in the name of creative diversity at a little bit lower level.
Awesome. Cool. Should we wrap?
Let's do it. Yeah, this is a good one.
All right. That's a wrap on episode 15 of the Marketing Operators Podcast. We hope you enjoyed today. We chatted about all things ad creative, looking at the anatomy of some ads from Ridge, Jones Road Beauty, and Hexclad. We looked at some motion reports going into how we're analyzing the performance of these ads and the next steps to take on iterations based on these KPIs that we're looking at. Thank you to the sponsors, Motion, Richpanel, Prescient AI, and Haus. And again, if you like the podcast, make sure to subscribe, share with your friends. We're trying to get this thing in the hands of as many growth marketers and performance marketers as possible. So please like, subscribe, and share.